Hi everyone, El Wakil here again, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can design a complete landing page in Figma. If you are new here, please be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss my upcoming videos, and also hit the like button so that this video could be helpful to others as well. And without wasting much time, let's get started. So first off, I'm going to create another frame inside this already existing frame. It's going to be just a little bit smaller than the frame that I already have on my design screen. Make sure it's in the center, and then I add a fill to it so that I'm able to differentiate it with my background. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a couple of oval shapes just like this, and I'm going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to give them two different colors. These are going to be the main colors that I will be using throughout this design. Now, after increasing the blur, I'm going to go ahead to the frame that I created earlier and give it a nice little gray color. You can use the same color as me by copying the code as you see in the color picker there. And then I'm going to give it a corner radius of around 20 to 40 pixels. And I'm going to take the blur that I created earlier and I'm going to rotate it just a little bit, around 40 to 30 degrees, and then I'm going to drag it into my frame. Remember, this blur has to be inside the second frame and not the main frame, so I'm just going to drag it from the layers panel and make sure it is inside the second frame that we created. You can see it fits nicely, but it doesn't extend outside of the borders. So I think I'm satisfied with how it looks now. Now we can go ahead and start designing the navigation bar. Using a nice little rectangle just like this, I'm going to make sure it is aligned to the center, and I'm going to round the corners all the way. The color is going to be complete white, and after that is done, I'm going to zoom in and then type in the navigation that I'm going to include for this. I have to make sure that this frame or this new rectangle is inside the overall frame and not inside the second frame that we have created. So you can see I dragged it all the way up from the layers panel to make sure it is not there. Now I'm going to write the name of this particular platform that's going to serve as the logo for the landing page. You could pick any logo, use any logo you want, or you could just write your name there just like I did. I'm just going to include my name here as the logo for the site. Also have to make sure that this new text that I added is inside the main frame and not the second one that we included the blur in. So whenever it gets lost in the second frame, you go to the layers panel and then drag it out of the second frame. Now I can go ahead and add some text inside this rectangle that's going to serve as links to the other pages that we might have on the site. Even though we're not going to be designing those, we're only going to design the landing page for today. So to make sure that you guys don't get confused anymore, I'm going to change the name of the second frame to blur so that I can reference it very well, while the main frame remains home and the second frame remains blur, so that I could always reference it and you'd understand clearly. Now the next thing I'm going to do is add a call to action button right there on the navigation bar by drawing a rectangle. I also have to make sure this rectangle sits in the home frame and not the blur frame, so I just dragged it all the way up to make sure it sits where we want it to. So now I'm going to lock the blur frame so that the further elements I'm going to include in this page do not get entangled in the blur frame, and I make sure they sit in the home frame. So I'm also going to round the corners of this rectangle all the way up just like this so that it matches the vibe we have there. Once we are satisfied with the height and length of this rectangle, we're going to give it a color, but I'm going to use a gradient here for this rectangle or for this call to action button. So with the rectangle selected, you go ahead and open the color picker and then you select the gradient icon. Then you can select the colors that we want. I'm using blue and purple for all my gradients throughout the design. You could be creative by using any color of your choice, or you could use the same colors I'm using. So after adding a text for the call to action, I'm going to select the rectangle and the text and then put them in a group by clicking the keyboard shortcut Control or Command G. The next thing is to add our header for the landing page or for the hero section. So you could include any random text you want, or if you have something in mind, you could use that. If you don't, you could just use AI like ChatGPT or Gemini to generate any random header for this landing page that we're working on, and then make sure it's aligned horizontally, and you could increase the text to make it much bigger since it is the main header for our landing page. After we have added the text, I'm going to increase the paragraph spacing between the first and second line so that it gives me space to add the next element that I'm going to design on this landing page. Also, I add more space between the width and the Al-Wakil page so that I'm able to draw a rectangle that sits nicely on the background. This new rectangle is also going to contain the same gradient as the call to action button that we have, just for consistency. So I'm going to double click on the call to action button that we have here for the download and select only the rectangle, and I'll copy it by doing Ctrl C or Command C on my keyboard and Command V to paste it. Then I'm going to adjust the size until I'm satisfied with it, because I want it to cover the Al-Wakil Pay text. And once that happens, I'm going to select the header that we have there and bring it to the front by clicking the bracket open on my keyboard, which is the shortcut for bringing items to the front. Now we change the text color to white so that it the contrast is nicely done. Now I select both of them and put them in a group and make sure they're aligned horizontally at the middle of my frame. So the next thing we're going to do is add a subheader or subtext for this landing page. Just like I said, you could just generate dummy text using AI, or you could just include any random text that you have in mind for this part. The content doesn't really matter as long as you get the concept of the design itself. Remember, when you're designing landing page, they have to be a very clear header and a very clear subheader that's going to help your users understand what the site is for, so that whenever they come to the site, they know what to do, they know what it's for, and it's going to help direct them to where they need to do. That is going to serve as what converts your visitors into actual users or customers. Okay, so now that that is done, the next thing I'm going to do is import a transparent picture of an iPhone frame for the next part of our design. I have this already saved in my laptop, so I'm just going to import it into Figma, and that's what we're going to use. If you don't have this, you could search for it quickly on Google or in stock image marketplaces, and I'm sure you'll find something similar. It doesn't have to be exact, but you get the idea. So now I adjust the size and make sure it is just the right size that I need. Something like this. You could use the same size or be creative with yours, but you can check the properties panel for the size of my own frame here. So I'm just going to draw or design a dummy icon here for this particular product that we are designing a landing page for inside the iPhone frame, and that is going to serve as some sort of promotional content for the site itself. So now that I'm done with all that, I'm going to select everything including the iPhone frame and then put them in a group. I'll go to my layers panel and name it phone so that I could easily identify it if I want to work on it further. So after that, I'm going to drag it and put it inside the blur frame that we have and not inside the main frame. So I go ahead and unlock the blur frame from my layers panel, and then I drag the iPhone frame inside the blur frame, just like this. You could tell it's inside because it is beneath the blur frame that we have named from our layers panel, and it does not extend outside of that particular frame. So I'm just going to make sure it sits right there in the middle of the frame horizontally. So after that is done, I'm going to lock the blur frame back again so that we could proceed to the other parts of this landing page. So just select the home frame itself, which is the main frame, and then we're going to increase the size of the frame by dragging it from the bottom downwards. Now for this next part, we're going to add a trusted users section so that it helps convince visitors onto this site that there are other people that are using this product and they're happy with it. So we're going to add this section with logos of other users or employees or businesses that have used this product and are happy with it, just to convince our visitors that what we have is actually good. So it's going to help convert your visitors into actual users. It is a very important section on whenever you're designing landing pages. So but for this section, since it is not an actual product, I'm just going to use dummy logos for this particular section. And to do that, I'm going to use a plugin right here on Figma. So I'm going to open my action bar and then go to plugins and then search for a plugin that allows me to generate or input dummy logos right there directly into my file. So you could just open the plugin panel and then search for logo, and you're going to see a couple of all these plugins right there on Figma, and you can use any of them. This particular one that I'm going to use is called Logo Ipsum, just like the Lorem Ipsum version where you generate random text. So I run it, and then once the plugin opens, I can see different dummy logos. You can see them here. So I'm just going to click on these logos, whichever one I'm satisfied with. Once I click on it, it's going to pop into my design file, and I can drag them inside my frame and keep working on them. So I'm going to drag around 5 to 7 logos, and that's what we're going to work with. So as soon as you're satisfied with the logos you have selected, make sure to align them vertically in a straight line, and then you can even out the spaces between them by increasing the value that you see right there on the properties panel. That is for increasing the spaces between objects, and then you can put them in a group and then also align it horizontally as well. So once I put them in a group, I'm going to go to the layers panel and rename them logo so that I could easily identify them on my layers panel. And now moving on, we proceed to the next section of our landing page, where we talk about how our product or our platform is going to help our users or customers or clients, whichever one as the case may be. In this section, that's what this section is for. So I add a quick header just like this, and I'm going to increase the size of this header to make it very bold and clear, and then we're going to draw a couple of cards to demonstrate what we're saying, or to kind of illustrate what we're saying on this section of how the product or the platform would make things easier for our visitors or for our users or clients. So I'm just going to select 2 words here, platform and easier, and I'm going to give them a bit of color to make things more visually appealing. So I'm going to use the same gradients that I've been using all along since the beginning of this design, which is the blue and purple. Now that is done, the next thing we're going to do is draw the cards that are going to illustrate a couple of features that are important on how this platform makes the workflow easier for all users. Remember, the whole aim or the whole goal of designing landing pages is that so that when people come to your landing page or people come to your website, they get much information that they need to about your product or about your company, and the information that they see there is supposed to convince them to either do business with you or download your app or your product. So you have to give them as much information as you can on your landing page, but do not overload the site with too much information. You have to be keep it brief but simple and clear. Just to keep things short and clear, I will be fast forwarding some parts of this video where I feel like the parts are self-explanatory, but if it becomes a little bit too fast for you, you could pause the video and understand it well, or you could use the playback settings on YouTube and reduce the the speed to either 0.5 or 0.25x according to whichever one suits you, and then you could understand clearly. So for this next part, after adding the text and this ellipse gradient that we have there, I'm going to import icons to communicate clearly what this the text that I've added here are for. So I use an icon plugin called Iconify. If you have it, you could open it up. If you don't, you could search for it under the plugin section. It's called Iconify, and then you could go ahead and search for a couple of icons there. I'm going to look for two icons. One is for users, and then the other one is for editing, to go along with what I have over here. So since the first one says sign up and customize, I'm looking for an icon that is similar to, or that demonstrates or speaks about adding users, just to properly reinforce the fact that you have to sign up, which means we're adding users, and I import it into my frame. And then I look for a second user, since the second text is saying you link your account and stuff like that. So I'm going to also import a second icon for that as well, and then I'm going to import it into my frame. So now that I have done that, I'm going to make sure I increase the sizes of this icon so that they stand out. They are a little bit bigger, as you can see. Now, so to change the colors to something that's going to be contrasting on the gradient background that we are going to place these icons on. So white is good for me. You could be creative with your color choices. You don't have to use the exact same colors I'm using, just to give yourself a sense of understanding for what we are doing, so that it sticks well with you. Now that this section is complete, I'm going to just select both these cards and I'll put them in a single group. I'm going to name it on my layers panel to cards again, so that I can easily reference them or find them when I need to make any future changes on these parts of my design. So the next section of this landing page is also going to be speaking more about some of the features of the product that we are advertising, or the product that we are trying to sell. You remember, you need to give your users enough information to try to convince them to take an action whenever they come to your site, or whenever they come to your applications or your designs. Your design should speak. It should always your goal should always be to convince users that visit any page or any product that you work on to take an action, which is why we are adding all these sections. So for this next section, it's going to also speak about some of the features of this particular product, but to make it visual, or to make it to help people buy into the idea, we are using the same colors all over the design. You can see I'm using the same gradient all over and all over again, and that is because we need to maintain a sense of consistency, so that it does not look like we are whenever there's no consistency in your designs, it looks very unprofessional. So you have to make sure that you maintain the same colors that you're using all throughout, and you maintain the same type of font that you are using all throughout your designs. It's going to make everything look seamless, professional, and well organized. So you could use the same text that I'm using here, or you could use any text that you want. Just be creative with it, as long as you understand why we make some of these decisions in design, you'll be good to go. Also, to make things more beautiful on this particular section, I'm going to use my pen tool to draw a diagonal rectangle just like this, a rectangle that's leaning towards one side, just like this. So I connect all the parts together, and then I go into the properties panel and remove the stroke, but add a fill color to it. So the fill color is going to be the primary blue color that I've been using. If you notice, this is the blue color that I use for the gradient. So I'll reduce the opacity to something like this, very small. so that it does not get in the way of the text. And so I'm going to drag it down from my layers panel to make sure it is below the text that we have included there on that particular section. It has to be below the text so that it does not interrupt the text, and it also makes it easy in case you want to come back to make edits or changes on this particular part of the design. So once you're satisfied with how everything is looking, we can proceed to the next section here. So the next thing I'm going to do inside that ellipse, I'm going to include an icon which serves as the logo for this particular product that we are showcasing on our design. So I go into the blur section, and the phone design that I did earlier, the iPhone design, I unlock it, and then I go in and select the icon that I designed for this particular product. I'm going to select all three of them here and the ellipse. I copy them, and then I go back, lock my layer again, and then I move on to this particular section back here, and then I can paste them. So right click and then paste here. So now that our icon is pasted, I'm going to place it neatly in the middle of the ellipse that we have designed. Again, to convince users, this next part is going to be a testimonial section so that our visitors can see that quite sure there are other people that have used this product and they are satisfied with it. It has solved their problems. So a testimonial section or a review section is usually very important in your landing pages or in your home pages. If you look at almost all designs worldwide that have to do with landing pages or home pages, you'd usually find a testimonial section. It's because it's very important for visitors to assure them that this actually solves a problem, so that they would also be encouraged to use it. It helps build more trust. Nice little shortcut that I usually use here whenever I'm done designing stuff like this. I'm going to group these two elements here, and then once I'm done grouping them, I'm going to use alternate and click and drag, and once I drag it, I can click on Control or Command D to keep on duplicating them until I'm satisfied. So once that is done, I group everything, and then I proceed to the subsequent parts of this design. Now the next thing is to add a review that has been said, or a testimonial as it was said by some of our previous users. So I'm going to add a quote here to indicate that this is something that someone has said. So I'm going to draw a quote by typing in quotes, and I increase it just so that it could be very big, and I picked a different font for it so that it looks very much like a quote on first sight. And then I'm going to type in a dummy review here in this section. So you could use ChatGPT or Gemini or any AI tool that you find preferable to generate a dummy review text that you can include here in this section. So the next thing I'm going to do is use the shape tool to draw 5 stars for the review as the next thing on this section. So I'm going to draw 5 stars, and then once I draw one, I'll use alternate by clicking and dragging to make a copy, and then I can click on Ctrl or Command D to make duplicates of this particular shape. Once I'm done, I can put them in a group and give them the same color. So I'm going to give them a color. Now I'm going to use the gradients that I use right from the beginning. You can see blue and purple, and once I'm happy with how things are looking, I'll put them in a group by clicking on Ctrl or Command G on my keyboard. So for the gray rectangle that we have made earlier, I'm going to import a picture from my file explorer, and I'm going to add it inside the gray rectangle that we have made. So I'm just going to walk through my explorer and look for any image that I'm satisfied with, and that's what I'm going to include there. So now once I've selected an image and it loads, I'm going to click directly inside the shape that I want to place it in, and it's going to take the shape of whatever object that I place it inside. And after I've done that, we can go ahead and type in a header for this particular section, which is the testimonial section. But to be creative or to communicate well, you don't have to title it testimonial or reviews. You could use something more human or more user-friendly by typing in something like what we just did here, which is what our users say. It's more user-friendly and it communicates better. It's more human. It sounds more human-like instead of just saying testimonials or reviews just like that. It sounds really boring and kind of not really convincing. So always aim for user-friendliness in your site by using texts that are friendly and welcoming. So guys, to keep things nice and easy for the sake of this tutorial, the next section would be the footer, which is the last part of our design. So I'm going to draw a nice little rectangle over here like this, which is going to serve as our footer. And I'm going to give it also the main gradients that I've been using since the beginning of this design, which is the gray and purple. So before we go ahead and work on the footer and the links there, I'm going to draw another rectangle here just like this. I'll make the color white, and I'm going to round off the corners nice and easy so that it fits into our overall design aesthetics. And once that is done, I'm going to add a drop shadow to it. You can use the same numbers that I use here if you want to get the same results as me. This is going to be the section where users input their email addresses in case they want to subscribe to newsletters or updates from the platform that we are working on. So I'm going to draw another rectangle just like this. It's going to serve as the input field for users to type in their email addresses. And I'm also going to give it rounded corners, just something around 10 to 12 pixels. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to select the rectangle without the gradient background for the footer and then put them in a group. Make sure they are aligned horizontally, and now we can go ahead and add links to our footer. So I'm going to go all the way to my navigation bar and pick up these links that we have here, including the name of the site and the call to action button, and then I'll copy them and then come down here to the footer and I'm going to paste them there. You can use Command C or Command V, Control C or Control V to copy and paste elements all over your artboard. So you can see the contrast is not really great, so I'm going to change the color of these elements here. The texts are going to be white, and then the call to action button is also going to be white, while the text inside it is also going to change colors, just like this. Okay guys, now to add a bit of interactions on this site, the main call to action button, which is the download button that we have designed earlier, I'm going to make a copy of it and drag it outside of my frame, and then we're going to add some hover effects to it. So I'll make 2 copies of it, and then I'm going to select one and change it into a different color, just like this. So the gradient background is going to now be have a single color, and it's going to have a very light blue color, just like this. You could use the same color I'm using by copying the code and pasting it in your color picker if you want to get the same results as me. But it's okay if you want to be creative and use your own colors as well, that's completely fine. So after I'm done adding colors and changing the colors of this particular button here, I'm going to work on the second button as well by making the text bolder, and then I'm going to increase the sizes or the length of these 2 rectangles. I'll make them a bit longer because now I'm going to include an icon in the second button. So we are going to import an icon using our icons plugin, Iconify. We've been using it all along. So just search for a download icon and then import it into your design. Now, to ensure proper contrast, let's change the color of this icon to white so that it's consistent with the text color that is already inside the rectangle for the CTA button. So move the text all the way to the side to make space for this icon itself. Now, just so I'm able to identify these different buttons that I have here, I'm going to rename them from my layers panel. So select the second download button and rename it from the layers panel to something that you can quickly identify. I'm going to just name mine to download 2, and then the first one with the light background is going to be download 1. So we're going to copy the rectangle or cut the rectangle. You can go all the way to edit at the top there, and then cut the icon, and then you double click to dive into this download 2 button and then paste here. So it is now pasted inside the group, and then you can align it properly on the side, just like that, nice and easy. So once we're done with that, we can go ahead and make this a component so that we can add interactions. So select both of them and then click on this icon here and select create component sets from the properties panel. So go into the properties tab and then click on the first button and drag the wire all the way to the second download button. Once you've done that and the menu pops up, change the trigger from click to while hovering, and then for the animation you have to input smart animate so that you have very nice animation there. For the curve you can select ease in and out. So for the timing or duration, I'm going to put 100 milliseconds so that it happens fast and smooth. Now, the next thing is to rename this component to something that you can easily identify. Let's rename it to download button. Once we are done with that, guys, our components or our button is ready. We're going to replace it with what we already have there on the navigation bar. So dive into the assets panel on the left side of your design screen, then double click on the components created in this file, and you can see our component there. So drag it into your file by clicking and dragging it all the way into your design file, and once it is pasted, we can go ahead and replace it with what we have. So now that it's pasted, let's go back to the design tab, and then you have to cut this just like we did earlier, edit and then cut by doing Command X as shortcut. Once it gets cut, you can click on this, then right click, or once the menu opens up, then you select paste to replace, so that what we cut earlier, the component is going to replace what we already have on our artboard without us needing to delete and then rearrange it. So guys, our page is complete. Now we can go ahead and test it to see how it looks as a prototype. So click the play button at the top to preview your prototype. So first off, now you can see our animation looking nice and easy and smooth, interactive. So we have a very interactive call to action button right there at the top inside our navigation bar. You can see it's very fast, and scrolling down, you can see how our design looks like inside a laptop markup. So guys, if you're new to this channel, if this is your first time, please be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more exciting and educating videos like this. You could also hit the thumbs up button so that this video also becomes helpful to others as well out there. And I appreciate your support, and I'm going to see you in the next video.